that was, first of all, let me just say this. First of all, I had no expectations going in. Just the title alone was like, I'm not gonna have any expectations, because if this does not meet the title, I'm gonna be upset. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm just gonna see. I'm just gonna, So when I first went in, I was on the wrong link. Something happened. There was some confusion where some people were on one side or whatever. But in about 15 minutes, I found out where I was supposed to be. And sis, when I found out where I was supposed to be, I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on.
It was so good. It was so good.
Wow.
Wait, what was your favorite part? Because I wrote down my favorite parts. What were your favorite parts?
So I believe that, just thinking in terms of course, the panelists were my absolute favorite parts, because as a Black female artist, I feel like I'm in a bubble all the time. I'm always looking for my tribe. And every time I run into another sister that's an artist, I'm like, oh, yay, I got another one. Oh, I got another one. But sitting here looking at these sisters on this panel talk about the struggles that they go through and how difficult it is for them to be their authentic selves, and their expressions was absolutely overwhelming, because it was like, oh my God, it's not just me. It's not just me. And I know it's not just me, because we have our own collective. But even in our own collective, it's just a small group. You don't think in terms of sisters being, nationwide, that have the same thing. But it was this thing where they came into the I've done a lot of panels. I've been, on the panel. I've been in the audience and all the things. And the way they commanded that screen was, it was like, oh my God, who are they? So I immediately start Googling them.
I'm looking it up, because I wrote down
I start Googling them. And when I start Googling them, Jay, I'm real petty. I'm a Scorpio. It's Scorpio season. It is what it is. And you know what my takeaway from this whole damn thing is?
What?
God damn it, I need a Wikipedia page. Look, I just finished my first novel. All the things. Look, I own a gallery. Look, until I get this damn Wikipedia page up, I ain't shit.
Nah, they were really, really good, and I appreciated
it was amazing.
From the panel, I appreciated, what was the woman's name who had the fro? And that's what I was just looking for.
That was her name. I got her right here, because I was following everybody, and
I appreciated her because she talked about just the journey of the whole body politic, and how she used herself in her art. And I felt that because I didn't know, what I was doing when I met y'all, but putting myself in the art and presenting myself as divinity, and then trying to explain what that was to, especially in the Bible Belt.
Right.
Here, and then to be Black in a feminine body doing that.
Right.
So it was really, really cool to hear someone talk about that journey who's been doing it for a while. One, because I didn't even know, right? Because there's not a constructed, written herstory about what's going on.
Yes.
So it's just really cool to hear that, because right now, body politics, all of that is it's a little bit more popular, a little bit more mainstream, but we don't know the work that's been laid.
Renee Cox. That was her name.
Yes, that's her name. I just really, really appreciated what she had to say. Well, all of them. All of them said some really critical things, but for me, that particular artist, that hit my heart, because I was like, oh, there was a whole chapter.
There was an aha moment, because as she even talked about, I mean, as they all talked about, you know, body image, just period. There was another sister that was watching along with me as well. And we were texting, you know, back and forth, and she was showing me a nude that she had painted, and she was like, man, after listening to them, I got to go a little bit deeper. And so I thought, you already know where I'm about to go. I thought about when you and I shot Aquafina, and the whole spiritual, there was a spiritual journey inside of a 24-hour period around shooting this particular character. And I remember really, I'll never forget that, because this was the matriarch of my Dynasty series. And when I approached you about doing one of the characters, the very first thing you said was, you know, if I have a choice, I ain't gonna be no slave. Right? So I'm like, that's that quality that you need in that matriarch that's gonna kick off your series, that says, you know, it is me, it is this woman, it is this God that will see to it that my lineage goes forward, right? And will continue to live forever because of who I am. And so I remember that day when we were out there shooting that image, looking for that moment, and how we got to the spot, and the dragonflies surrounded us, and how you had a vision and I had a vision of how we wanted to shoot this thing. But the moment the dragonflies appeared, the ancestors had a totally different vision, and that's what we ended up with. But the beauty of that is that we trusted each other, and we trusted the power that we had to move forward with our decision. And that's what was so amazing about this thing tonight, is that these folks got on, and these sisters, it was like when they converged, it's like when they got together, it was just like this radiation of power that was emitting, you know, from the internet waves of, you know, across the world. And whoever wasn't on it, I sure hated for them.
No, because it was definitely like a spiritual work happening with this event.
Absolutely.
I think, like, when you brought up the picture that you and I did, I thought about that while watching this too, because that moment where, like, my little pasties fell off.
Yeah.
Right? And then we continued to shoot, and my whole demeanor changed, right? But it wasn't like that. There was a conversation going on in the chat as well, where someone was talking about, like, how people feel offended when we start to take ownership of our bodies. And I remember that particular moment being a moment of transformation, because, like, here I am, this activist, teacher, person who, like, I'm free-spirited, but I had not done anything like that. Definitely not, public. And so, but to take,
because you still had that thing. You still had the thing on you. You had it. It was like, what's going to happen if my mama, what's going to happen if my students, what's going to happen if the
that was all going underneath. And so, like, the moment that they fell and I kept going was the moment that I, like, there was something beyond this time that happened in that moment, where there was a memory of, like, my body being my clothing, not my body being something to be ashamed of. And so that comes from a time prior to colonization, right? And so it also comes from a time prior to the impacts of patriarchy too, which we don't really talk as much about. But, like, when I think about the power of what happened with this event, right? Like, they did so much with 3 hours. So in the performances, in the conversations, in the structure, they were doing, like, this spiritual level kind of work that I think you have to really, like, I want to watch it again to, like, just peel it back, because even the way they opened it up, right? You open it up with what's her name? This shifter.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
African
I'm about
African.
to. Yeah, I need to do some research on her too, because I was just like, what is happening right now? I was
They
just
pulled in
blown
so
away.
many, like, these are spirit workers, these are energy workers, these
I'm
are
going
not,
to do
like,
research on all of them.
yeah, it was dope. Like, I really want, I'm wanting to like pull up their stories and figure out like who are the people, because like today I've been writing about activism in its different forms. And I was writing this thank you to energy workers, spirit workers.
Froze.
It froze?
You froze. I'm trying to get you out of froze mode.
Uh-oh.
I hear you now.
You look fine on my side. We gonna see what happens. But no, like I was writing a thank you because today is Friday the 13th. And in the spiritual scientist community, the nature-based community, this is a good day. In the Western world, this is a bad day. In a Western patriarchal world, it is a bad day. And so I was just kind of like paying attention to the messages that were being put out about goddesses and this kind of thing. And thinking about like the work that they do, this activism that they do, that's kind of like underbelly to everything else. And so that being part and parcel with what this event is, right? Like there is a whole community of people who honestly believe like the Black woman is God, not just in politics, not just in theory, but this is what they believe in practice. And they are doing this movement of healing work that isn't looked upon as activism by social justice activists, but it is. And it's very related to like what artists do. So like these spiritualists and these artists doing this creative work, this matrix work, and that being the underbelly, the rock bed of the activism that we see that's mainstream. Like how critical this energetic work is and how like we don't celebrate it, we don't talk about it, and why something like this needs to be more popular. Like I saw we had 200 people watching it. I'm like, we need 2,000. We need like we need way more paying attention and participating in something like this.
People are afraid of what they're not accustomed to seeing. And even going back to that day when we shot Aquafina, you say the moment my pasties fell off, but I say the moment the ancestors spoke. It was it was a clear moment in my mind where the ancestors spoke, and I was acquiescent. You were not ready. And so there had to be a moment in time where I respected the fact that you were not ready. And I had to be humble enough to understand if we were going to move forward or not, regardless of what the ancestors said.
It wasn't.
And so there was a definitive. No. I'm going to remind you. We didn't move on it.
Yeah, it failed.
But remember, I want to remind you. I just want to remind you when the pasties. This is what happened, right? Leading up to the moment, because it was the most amazing moment of clarity that I had with one of my subjects from a spiritual perspective ever. And you know, I'm all about shooting essence. So to me, to have all of that that spiritual connectivity was just amazing. I love that image because of what the journey we went through in that 24-hour period. The pasties were there, okay? And everything was there. We did everything we needed to do to get to the place to do the photograph, and it was well planned out. But as we were shooting, one pasty would slide down, you know, and then you would grab it, and then we would reposition it. And then another one would do, and then at some point, we went through that whole little motion. And at some point, remember when one pasty fell flat down on the ground where we knew there was no salvaging it because it went flat on the ground and all the dirt and the grass and all the things hit it. So there was nothing else we could do. And that's when you said, you know what, bump this, we going without it. And up to that moment, I had been telling you, you are regal, you are dignified, you are a queen, you are a warrior. I am, you know, emoting you and encouraging you to be this person that we are recreating. But when those pasties dropped, that's when the person showed up. And it was a combination of your clarity and your conflict all at one time, right? Because you were like, oh yeah, I'm about to do it. I just don't know how I'm gonna manage it going forward. I just don't know how I'm gonna manage it. And I remember the ride home, silent. You were like, I need a minute. And you didn't have nothing. You was like,
I wrote that day down. I'm gonna send you the blog because I remember some things.
Yeah.
When we got in the car, you asked me, are you sure? Are you okay? I saw
because I was worried. I knew I had the shot, but I was scared shitless that you were gonna be like, no.
Yeah, I remember like we got in the car, you said, are you sure? Are you ready? Are you okay? And I was like, I was okay the moment that we went ahead and kept going. And I wrote that down because like I remember the feeling of deciding to move forward in that shot. Because like I'm the type that if I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it. There's not gonna be like take the picture and be like, no, never mind. I ain't that type. So but I remember us being in the car because I did say in the car, because I'm gonna send you the blog I wrote about it because I write everything down. I remember being in the car and saying like, okay, I'm okay with this. But I remember saying, I gotta tell my mama though.
Yeah, that was really at the top of mind.
Yeah, like everything else I didn't care about. But I was like, the other stuff I'm used to like getting criticism from people for whatever that. But I gotta talk to my mama.
Right. But you know, that's super powerful because we were not. It wasn't like we were doing a sexually explicit, pornographic nothing. What we did was beautiful, but we still felt the need to explain it. And that's what they were talking about.
That's the deeper part of this because it's like, it's my body.
Yes.
I'm 30-something years old, and my first mind is like,
I gotta tell my mama.
Yes. And
yes.
And that's
that part.
Yeah. It talks a lot about like our socialization and ownership. Because remember the time I showed you and Avita that piece I wrote about the Black woman's body being community property.
Yes.
And how long I felt that way.
Yes.
And it wasn't, and I thank you for putting me in your series and letting me be that person. And because that experience wouldn't have happened. Everything that happened after that, if you noticed, I just kind of let go. And I was like, well, I got this other picture from the African American Museum that people did. I might as well put that one up first, get people warmed up before your picture come out. Like, and so it just kind of helped me to evolve into ownership of myself. At a level that I hadn't had. Like I had this psychological thing down, right? As the social justice activist. And I think a lot of social justice activists are there where we philosophically, we get it. But it's the embodiment. The reason why I appreciate artists, and art is a different form of activism. It is a completely different form of activism that requires an embodiment of the idea, not just the philosophy. And so I think the work that you do, the work that you invited me into is about that. It's like embodying the idea of freedom. Even the 7 generations in your series, what you have, even with the women who are in captivity or women who are like, I am not a captive, I am not a slave, I am free. This is their sickness. Like, I've been free, my mama was free, my mama's mama was free, my children are free. Y'all can try to call me slaves, but I'm not. And I think that's a different kind of activism. It's not about trying to create permission and ask for permission and create space. You're saying, no, I have my space. Y'all might be confused, but I'm here. And I heard that in the conversation today too, where it's like, no. We here. We are goddesses. This is not. This is not a conversation or a confusion.
And you're not asking permission, right? Yeah.
Activists.
I love the way the conference was introduced, that definitive way, where it was introduced as the Black woman is God. So don't get it twisted. We're not exploring a concept,
right?
Right? It is. This is what it is, and like it or love it, it is what it is. But the Black woman is God. So like, y'all need to sit back and relax and let us show you. And what I loved about that whole flow is how everybody everything was just so magical. And everything is always like that when we get together and we put our minds to doing a thing, especially when it's an expression or a communication of a concept or an idea or a movement or a way or a change of direction or whatever the hell it is. It's just like, it's a swell, and it's just like lightning bolts.
Well, I think like scientifically, I think about like the energy of a womb, right? It is an incubator. Mm-hmm. And so when you put like a congress of wombs around,
that's what it's called.
Yeah, like you amplify that, whatever that thing is. Like, even when I think about what happened with our group, right? We didn't know each other. We find each other in 2019. And in 2019, like, everybody was like, boom, you got 2 galleries that came out of that. Like, people started doing bigger shows and all of that. Like, it exploded. And I've seen it happen over and over when you get a core group of people who, like, they center around a thing. It blows it up. And I think what I loved here, like, for example, so favorite moments, I didn't get to say mine. The God Cipher, the God, like, that. I was like, I need the video.
First of all, how can we get that video?
I'm hoping that they said they're going to rebroadcast it. So I'm hoping that means.
Oh my God. Like, I want them to post that video somewhere because I need that in my playlist.
Yeah. Like, all of the videos that they did, all of the different performances, I'm hoping that we can get those like broken up, because those were.
Maybe they broke them up. Like, if we go to the channel, because maybe they're going to break them up.
They're not on the channel right now. I was waiting. I've been waiting.
Really? Okay. I was
like, I gotta go back. That Miss J thing. I gotta go back and read. I gotta watch it again. Write my notes. But yeah, like the cipher, Dr. Rashidi, like.
Oh, Dr. Rashidi.
That. So when I was saying, like, he added some crazy substance. It was the part that we needed, the part that I needed as a nerd. Because he broke down the history of this idea, right? Like, historically, Black women were seen as God, like, worshipped across the board, not just by Black people, period. Since the beginning of time. And Blackness, whether you talk about Black people, Blackness, was seen in a positive light. It is the place from which everything grows. You put a seed in the dark ground for it to grow. You have a baby in the dark womb for that child to grow. Like, darkness is the place where matter is created. That was scientific, is scientific. So this idea that, like, this is just kind of an imagination. Like, it's not. We're talking science, we're talking history, we're talking culture. And so this decolonization that has to happen of our minds, bodies, and spirits, so that we can start to see this is not taboo. Like, because the thing is, what we don't learn about our history is, like, there is a psychological warfare component in colonization. You have to educate people against themselves. And so that first wave comes, like, with Europeans against Europeans. So you educate people against, like, nature-based practices. You educate people against.
Yeah, but I feel like we always get tangled up in where some kind of way, in historically speaking, we get tangled up with that, because he even mentioned that. We did not start with colonization.
No, we did not.
Way before that. And people always tend to sync us up.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because, like, to decolonize, you gotta know what colonization is. Part of the problem is, like, okay, I'm a social justice activist, and I'm gonna tell you one of my, like, something that grinds my gears about activism.
Okay.
Is like, right now, we have a lot of people talking about anti-blackness, 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 right? We're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and people are scared. And in the fear, what's happening is people are enacting white fragility in Black and brown bodies. So we attack, like, ancestral practices, people who do not, like, subscribe to Western medicine, who might believe in, like, the genius of their ancestors. We attack them. Yeah. So that's an activist. That's the reason why you got to talk about colonization. Because what happens if you don't is people think they woke.
Right.
Doing, like,
real
jacked up stuff against our ancestry, treating our ancestors like they're ignorant, acting like our ancestors weren't scientists and genius. Meanwhile, we're sitting here like, this is science. This is like, no, it is a form of science. It's one form. We got to stop acting like our ancestors did not have genius. And that's what I mean. That's the reason why I bring up colonization, not because it's a start, but because it has a serious impact on the way that we engage today with ourselves and with our ancestry.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I feel that 100% for sure. He definitely infused a level of elevation into the actualization of the Black woman being God. I don't even, it wasn't even a validation. It was just an actualization from my perspective.
How do we get to a place where we aren't just talking about it in imagination, right? Like,
I think these kinds of things need to happen like way more often. And I think it needs to be kind of like, we need to have chapters, because what I did notice is that there were a lot of sisters on there from the West Coast, Philly, DC, or whatever. And I just feel like we need to have chapters. I mean, I can think of a whole bunch. Like, I was thinking about Eva Minty the other day. She made a post a few weeks back. And when she made a post about us doing something similar to this, and when she did, there were hundreds of replies to her post where sisters were like, we need this. Yes, a pandemic, but we need this. First of all, we need this to continue to empower each other, because when we are isolated from each other on the level that we have been, we lose some of our power, because it just kind of dims. And when we get together, it's almost like fucking the Power Rangers, man. Like, we like lock arms and then we ignite. It's like, we need these kinds of forums and platforms regularly to consistently build our power and consistently build the visibility amongst other, because there's a lot of people that did as much promotion, and we went around this event, there was a lot of people that didn't know about it. They never heard of it before. It was not my first time hearing about it, because I have LeShaé in my life, and you've been talking about the Black woman as God since I met you. You understand what I'm saying? So, but there are a lot of women that never heard of it. So just imagine those people, like, if they, there's a lot of work to be done as it relates to bringing, other sisters into the fold that would completely embrace it. And I just think that it's just time out for us ignoring that need, because we need each other to build our power. And see, you don't have that when you start talking about, Western medicine and us making fun of our ancestors and all of those things. See, those types of things happen the further away we get from who we are.
Yeah.
Right. And so we get away from who we are by aligning ourselves with people who we aren't. And then we start assimilating. And so when we start assimilating, we tend to forget where we came from. And when we forget where we came from, then of course, all of the things that should be natural to us are foreign. And so we need to have more things like this so that sisters will be like, oh yeah, I gotta go. I got to go plug in. Ooh, I got to go plug in. Because if we have more opportunities like this to plug into each other, this would you would start to see this less and less, because you wouldn't be afraid when you see someone heal someone with medicine. You wouldn't be afraid when you see someone doing the spiritual healings that our sisters are empowered to do, practicing the medicine of our ancestors. You won't be afraid of stuff like that when you see it often. But if you never see it, then you're just gonna be like everybody else. You're gonna be scared of it.
That's real. Or make fun of it. Because I
Or
think
make fun of it.
when I think about like my journey here, it was a lot of work to get to a place where I can see like the genius of my ancestors.
Yeah.
I think when you consider like we are in a world that tells us that there is a particular type of genius. And generally, when we think about genius, we think about white men. So if it doesn't have a white man attached to it, we ridicule it.
Yeah.
And I was similar. Like I grew up in a Christian church, and I don't have a beef with Christianity. But I will say, like, it is a part of the socialization process that pushed me away from the idea of Black women being divine. Because through the church, I learned that women were dirty. I learned that I was dirty. I learned that I was the reason for everybody suffering because I'm a woman and I am of Eve. Like
that was our girl was just talking about that, about the whole buying into the whole concept of woman being responsible for mankind's state of being, of sin, right? The reason why we're imperfect is because woman made a mistake.
And that becomes a part of your fabric. Like you don't even consciously think of it, but you become this like ever apologizing creature. Like so my whole life is dedicated to trying to like serve and be like this saint, or try to be a saint of a person because of the crimes that supposedly my kind
that you didn't commit.
Right. But it was getting to like an HBCU, studying history, traveling the world. So going to the places where I could see the Black Mother Mary and a Black baby Jesus. Like I got to see that in a stone wall. And I was like, so I got the experience of like decolonization happening in my face. It was like, bam, what happens now? Because there's a whole painted wall of Black people. But now, or like going even further back and learning like we're using a calendar by a particular person. And so like how much of us is ingrained in this idea of what's normal and what is standard. So we say it's 2020, but when I went to Ethiopia, I learned that their year is not 2020. So like they operate off of a different calendar, which made me look into like, wait a minute, it's a whole different calendar. And so I looked into calendars. I'm like, oh, hold on. We are using a Western European calendar from a guy, Pope Gregory, from the middle century. And I'm like, whoa, I never learned that in school. And so then I started looking up matriarchies and how old they are. And so I started writing my date differently to remind myself that time and our constructs of time are like, those are programmed into us too. And so we have to ask questions about everything, but the process to getting to a comfort level to asking questions. That's a lot of work. So even like just coming to an event like this, I think like for some people it can be like, yay. And then I think for some people it can be like, because if I think about who I was when I was in the church, I would come to something like this and be like, this is inappropriate. Like, how dare you say something like this? That's blasphemous. Like that's what I would say watching something like this. And so I think we got a lot in us that we've been socialized through that we got to have grace, I guess, to kind of like usher ourselves out of. Because like I said, it took me a long time, if I'm honest, to really get to a place where not just philosophically, but like I actually believe differently than I did before.
I agree with that 100%. Same thing. It is what it is. You come here and then we have our parents and we're raised a certain way, and we typically kind of put our isms on our kids and our offsprings, and they kind of become like replicas of who we are. I was just telling somebody the other day, a lot of times when I'm looking at my kid, it's just like when he's doing the dumbest shit, he's behaving just like me. So it's like the things, you know, my worst traits, when he exhibits them, I recognize them as my traits. And I know that I'm primarily responsible for his belief system. The reason why he believes the way he believes and all the things has something to do with how he watched me raise him, or how he watched me live my life. And so it is what it is. But at some point we get grown, and then we get a chance to explore things on our own and make our own decisions and determine how we're going to move forward. But as a society, we typically do what we were taught, and then we put that on our kids, and they put that on their kids until somebody's kid says, I ain't doing that, I'm doing something else, and then it breaks the cycle.
Yeah, I think the challenge is like, most of us come to the world unique little snowflakes that don't fit into what society wants. But our parents, in loving us and wanting to protect us, do the things that they have to do to make sure that we can survive, because like a lot of our survival is dependent upon other people. And so when you are a person who steers too far from other people, or particularly when you add on the layer of being Black and you're in a society that practices anti-Blackness, then add on the layer of being in a womb body, and then you're in a society that abuses womb bodies. You have parents who are like, nope, you can't dress that way, you can't talk that way, you can't think that way because it is unsafe for you. And so then you become people who now have to like unlearn, because like the fear, like we're raised up in fear, basically. Like when I think about the saying of the Christian church that we are born and raised in sin, like I think of sin and fear as synonymous. Like I think of sin and ego as synonymous.
100%. Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, it's us trying to like run away from our truth. That to me is the actual sin. And so like when you have, the reason why I love this movement, not just this event, but like this movement.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a movement.
Is because it's calling us to like remember, like they said, remembering here. And like we're being called to remember a level of divinity that we have. And I think a conversation that I'm recalling, I can't remember with who, but we were talking about like the fear of our divinity is not just about the internalized oppression that we've experienced. I think the fear about our divinity is also about the power that's connected to that. Because if you have that much power, then we have to ask different questions about the station in the world, like, and what we're actually capable of doing. Because that's like, real. If we are divine, which I believe that we are, we can command and do different things for ourselves and with each other. And so like, that's why I'm like, this movement is so powerful, because it not only just brings us into a conversation about divinity in the Black woman, it also invites us into another form of activism, like another level of activism that's not about like victimhood and not about like what we can't do and what the odds are against us. This movement is now about like what we have, what we can do, why we are powerful, and what we can do with that power. And I think that is a different kind of activism altogether that I'm interested in talking about, and I'm interested in finding that community. So I was just really, really happy to, one, just be in community with those folks. Like, I want to know more about the people who put it on. I want to know more about the people who participated, who came, who witnessed, like, because
all the thing. I was just going through getting names and Instagram titles and everything. I was just trying to find as much information as I could, because I was like, I'm getting ready to research everybody going forward, and made sure that I was connected with the movement, made sure that I gave some money to the GoFundMe, made sure I got on all the mailing lists, made sure I followed the panelists, you know, so that I could get plugged into them. But I am certain that there is something that you and I can do at this level, in this metroplex, that doesn't have to be just in this metroplex, but just with our network. I think we can start our own chapter. So we just got to figure out what, we got to figure out what that means. What do we need to do to start our own chapter?
Start with like us talking with the founders, because I think their story, that was another part of the event that I liked too. Like listening to them talking about like how they came to the name, how did this event come to be? I didn't know it was that long, like that old, 2012.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that's a long time. And so like, I think it would be cool to like just reach out. I wanted to reach out and talk to the founders. I know right now would probably not be the time. They trying to run all of this stuff.
But seriously though, I'm like, count me in, because if you were like gonna have a Zoom call with them or whatever, include me, and because I like, this is something we need to be lockstep on. I feel like we need to do it. And I feel like we would have so much support, because there are a lot of sisters. Just thinking about that one post that Eve made not too long ago, just there are a lot of sisters that need this.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know even outside of the art community, especially outside of the art community, I know a lot of people who hit me up, because right now this topic for a lot of people is still taboo. So I'm like
100%. It's very taboo. That's the number one thing, is you have to get accustomed to having those conversations and get accustomed with what is. We've got to get to a place to where we're no longer afraid to step into our greatness.
Yeah.
We have to stop shrinking back, and we got to step into it. And so in order for us to do that, we're going to have to empower each other and encourage each other to do that. And the more we do that, the more we'll do it,
That, and I think there's this level, so I've been real, what's the word that I'm looking for? Focused on like the role of self-accountability too. And what I mean by that is not just you being responsible. I'm talking about like, what does it look like for us to ask ourselves the critical questions necessary to evolve? Because I think what I've learned over the past, so, my work is like coaching, consulting, people in identity development, around social justice, racial justice, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've learned in that time of trying to like cultivate spaces is like the number one factor about people being ready for a space is them being ready for the space. Like, and that's self-work. And so there's a part of me that also wants, like, I want to cultivate those spaces and help people to feel comfortable, but I really want, and this is a selfish thing after like the time of engaging in this way, I really want to find the people who already want to do it.
No, yeah, 100%. 100%, because I feel like, and I feel exactly how you feel. Because it's kind of like chess. Like my son's been teaching me how to play chess. And one of the things that I have to be mindful of is because he's teaching me how to play chess, I can't play chess with him often, right? Because he's a really good chess player. So if he plays chess with me all the time and I'm not a really good chess player because he's teaching me, then his skill level is going to deteriorate. I might get better, but he will deteriorate because he has to constantly keep himself challenged in a way so that he continuously gets better, right? And so by the same token, when you are already there mentally, like we are already there, like sign me up. How do I, where do I get in? You have to be with other people that are like that you can get that energizing from, because you're already there. They don't have to convince you. They don't have to convince me. We're already there. We already signed up, right? And so, yeah, we need that opportunity to be plugged into that group, but also we need to, we got to pay it forward. At some point, we have to think about in terms of, what about others? Like, they want to come.
So,
you know what I mean?
I'm a teacher. What I know is, I know about teaching is that part gonna come. I don't have to come through or create nothing. My consulting practice didn't come because I said I'm about to be a consultant. My consulting practice came because somebody said, I'm ready to learn and I see what you're teaching. What's up? That's how it starts. And so I'm like, oh, the paying forward, that part, that's the easy part. Somebody don't.
Real talk.
I think
real talk.
The strategy part, the work part is actually like identifying the communities or identifying the individuals in your community that, because I think the other thing too is the idea of who gets it, right? Because like, I think that is just, that's subjective. Because what kind of get it are we talking about? Like, there are people who get it on a philosophical level and can like conceptualize the idea. There are people who get it on a maternal level because they are mothers. There are people who get it from an artistic point of view. And then there are people who get it from an activist point of view. These are like, they practice this. Like they actually believe in and worship women, Black women, gods. This is not just like, oh yeah, I believe that because I'm a Black woman and I'm proud. No. There are people like, no. My whole religion is this. And
real talk.
I'm offering that to say like, it's something to think about. And I thought about that as a participant in this because I'm like, on the art side of things, I saw like how artists fit into this movement. And then I saw an opportunity because I'm in other movements that are not artists. These are like spiritual sciences. That's but they believe in a similar politic. And so like, these are two different communities, but there's an opportunity here because the work is about like this movement to heal and be free people. And so I'm just interested overall in like finding those people who are activated. Because like I'm saying, like as an activist, what I found in my social justice journey that I'm evolving out of is that there are a lot of people who are active in some regard, right? Like they may be active in the politics, they may be active, but what I'm interested in is like the actual practice and embodiment of freedom. That's what I care about. 100%. I don't care about talking about it all the time. I don't. We
don't want to philosophize about it. We don't want to know it. We already know what it is. Yeah.
I'm I practice my freedom, and I'm looking for people who practice their freedom and are interested in constructing a free world. That is my interest, and I think in finding a movement like this, where people are having this kind of conversation, you find those kind of people because artists are people who create new worlds. They pull their imagination and manifest those things into matter. That is a God, that's a God practice. And so like, that's the reason why I love artists. Like, I think it's just, it is the forward kind of activism that I'm more interested in than the conversation. I think conversations are wonderful and healing and community building and all of that jazz.
But sometimes we gotta stop talking about it and make it happen. Real talk. That's real talk. We just got that's what needs to happen. Well, shoot, like I said, I'm signed up. So we can go lockstep together. Make it do what it do.
Now that's a bet. Like I know my work, I got some stuff I'm working on, so I'm excited to put it out. I think the other thing that this movement did for me was it gave me a language for something that for a while I didn't know how to articulate. I didn't know I won't say I didn't know how to articulate it. I will say like I didn't know how to like make sense of it in the art space. I knew how to articulate it.
You were doing a pretty damn good job of it. I just think that, you were looking for that tribe of people that understood. Yeah. Because I think you've done a very good job of articulating it.
That's fair.
But it goes back to what we're talking about, is that finding that tribe of people that understand where you're coming from, not necessarily for validation, just for synergies.
Yeah.
That you can vibe off of. You know what I mean?
It does matter.
That's what it is. That's what you want.
No, I appreciate you saying that because that really does matter. Like when I got the email that I was being invited to be a part of this, I can't explain what that felt like, because like it was that synergy about like, okay, this thing that I care about so much, there's a community of people who,
a whole community,
and I don't have to explain, because I felt like the stuff that I was creating, not only did I have to figure out how I'm explaining this to myself, because it was coming from like an inspirational place. It wasn't like this logical, and now I'm going to do this. That's not what happened. What happened was I was inspired, these things came out, and now I'm like trying to explain what came out. But like, I think in addition to that, initially when I was starting that stuff, like putting this stuff out, the stuff that I was creating, sharing it with friends, sharing it with local folks, it didn't really have a home. There is a more, like, I think I said this to you and Avita, that I was like, I don't feel like I fit in a traditional art space. I don't like, and I kept saying like, I'm the art, right? And I don't know how to make that make sense. And then it wasn't until like, so before the Black Woman is God invitation, it was some folks in the Northeast, a friend up there who saw, like, first y'all said it, you and Avita said it was your, like, you need to do more with your videos. Then a friend saw it in New York and was like, do something with these videos. And so when they picked it up and then they put the video on the virtual, my little artist page, I was like, okay. So like, there is a community of people that get it. And it really is just about like finding the people, because without it, you kind of feel I did feel like I'm not valid. And see, like this invitation made me feel, it's not even about validation. It was just really about like,
it was a synergy. It's looking for those synergies with like-minded people. Because it's just like people that love Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I don't get it, but they like are all over it. You know what I mean? It's just like you need that tribe of people so you can vibe off of each other, off of what you care about. You know what I mean? And this is so important. It's so important. And it's so important to you. So it's important to us as Black women, but even before this event, it was important to you. So with it even being important to you, you like, I need to find that tribe. And you found them.
Yeah. And it was critical.
Hell, I wasn't looking for them and I found them because you found them. You know what I'm saying? I was just like going, LeShaé been talking about this shit for the last 2 years. And then I'm just now, you see what I'm saying? That's what I kept saying. And I'm gonna go back and watch it over.
For me, like the Black Woman is God. I keep bringing up activism because, like, in my world, the only thing that I've done since I left my mama's house is activism. That's it. There's no other life that I've lived, and it's not because I'm trying to be an activist. It is literally because I am a free being. Period. I'm not trying to be free. I don't aspire to be free. I am free. And because I'm free, it is disruptive in a lot of spaces. And that requires me to then either like school people and help people to get it or
be a renegade.
Yeah.
Or you're a rebel, a renegade. And it is what it is.
It's like this Black Woman is God piece. For me, is not just about like a pride thing and being a Black woman. For me, it really is like our first ancestor is a Black woman. And the fact that we engage with Black women in the way that we do says to me that we are doing like a cellular level of damage, not just to Black women, but to ourselves, because if that is our original ancestor, that comes through our cellular structure, all of the human beings walking the earth. So when I look for the freedom of Black women, it's not just about our freedom. This is literally about like, you heal the Black woman, you really do heal the world. And this is to me, a scientific thing. It's not just a social
for the people in the back row.
You said what?
I said, say it again for the people in the back row.
But yeah, so it's like, when I think about this practice of freedom, it's not just about me. Like, it's very literally about like, I know when I decide that I'm going to honor this herstory that existed before our enslavement, before our colonization. I'm gonna honor that. Yeah. I invite other people by my own practice of freedom to decide they are going to practice freedom too. Not ask, not have a conversation and think through. We free right now. And
right now
is why, like, this to
and
me,
this is our behavior. As a result of that freedom, we behave this way.
Exactly. And so that is what, like, when I think about activism is really about this embodied freedom. And now you are in response to the world around you that is unfamiliar with people who practice freedom, right? So it's like, we're in a world that decided you got to tell people that they're free, particularly Black people. And we got to ask permission. We got to go through the government. We got to be written free. I don't believe that. That's not the practice. And so that is what leads to, like, who does she think she is? Which then leads to, oh, she crazy because she thinks that, or she believes that, or she thinks that other science beyond the white man science is valid. She can hold more than one truth. We all know that there's one right and wrong, right?
Only one.
So it's like, no, there's there are multiple sciences, there are multiple languages, there's infinite. So, like,
but I tell my kids all the time, at the end of the day, there are a couple of absolutes in the universe. One of them is mathematics, and the other one is truth. And truth is perceptive. So it varies from person to person. But regardless of the variation, there is only one truth. Wherever it resides, it's somewhere.
I believe the one truth is energy, and that's it. And like whatever we believe, right? Like, I believe you have the freedom to do that. Like, you have the freedom to believe however you want to believe. You have the freedom to be who you want to be. And I think we say those things, but when it comes to, like, the actual practice of it, that's why, like, my life has been activism. It's not because I'm like, I'm going to be an activist. No, it is because I decided I'm going to be free. And people got a problem with it.
And regardless of what y'all say, this is what I'm about to be.
Right. And so I think that's the world I'm interested in ultimately, right? So when I think about, like, this Black Woman is God movement, to me, it represents something larger than we're even, like, comprehending. And I'm talking about all of us who are connected to it and thinking about it. It's larger than what our logical mind can even process. And I'm saying that because, like, from what I know about, like, the spiritual sciences of our ancestors, there is a level to that intelligence that has something to do with it goes beyond our ego's ability to process it, to make sense of it, to give it name. This is something that, like, that's why I said this is a spiritual situation happening. And, like, we would have to watch it again to actually even
the irony of it being virtual speaks to, and that also speaks to the spirituality of it too, because it was virtual and the power was still super powerful. I was imagining if we were all in the same space together, what that would have been.
And I think that to me is another conversation, because I was like, that could go a different way.
A whole bunch. So where do we go from here, sis? What do we do from here? What are we gonna do? What's next?
Well, I know they have more workshops and all that kind of stuff coming in December, so I'm interested in seeing, like, what they have going on and who is doing what with that. I would be interested in having another conversation about this. I'm about to print this thing that I wrote for Daughter of Woman. So remember, I did the Daughter of Woman event.
Yes.
So I have a zine that I put together around that concept. Because Daughter of Woman is about the Black woman being God.
Right.
And I would want to engage in a deeper conversation, not just from the art sense, but from, like, the spiritual science sense and the historic sense of why we would say something like that. That's why I appreciated Dr. Rashidi so much and what he contributed to the event, because I think that part is so critical to get us to a place where we can organize and innovate. There has to be like first affirming and decolonizing. Those are my boom pillars: affirmation, decolonization, organization, innovation. So to get to the organization, to get to the innovation, you gotta decolonize. You gotta get people in a space of like, why would people say that the Black woman is God? Where is that coming from? How do you walk people from like, my God is Jesus, my God is Allah, to like, oh, I see why you're saying the Black woman is God. And it's not about changing your religious belief. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about like opening yourself to the idea that there is divinity in this being that we've been taught to hate so much.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think it would be cool to engage in another conversation around that, just around like this concept and around like the work necessary to get there. Because to your point, like there are people who they will welcome this, and there are a lot of people who will be like, lit. What?
Just like we say as artists, whatever, you know, myself ain't for everybody. So it ain't for everybody. The people that it's for, that's who you get it. You understand what I'm saying? Or if they get
Talk again.
Okay, I said it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And so for those people that it's not for, that's not who we talking to. Right?
Yeah.
Talking to people who it's for. And so, and to your point, that's the reason why you don't want to be like, I don't want to have this whole bringing everybody along movement. I want to go with the people that's already on the trajectory. I want to be with them, and then let people see what I'm doing and have them join the movement. And I get that. I feel that 100%. There's power in that.
Yeah. No. Agreed.
Let's do this again.
Okay.
This shit. You're going to brand it something, and it's going to be something. And
no, I would love to, because I mean, you know, I was already thinking about Miss
and we can have more of these conversations and invite people to join us, and you know.
No, I would be down. I'll send you as soon as the print is done. I'll send you what I'm working on, and maybe we can build something around that.
Okay.
And then I would love to, because like there's some people I wanted to bring. I would love to bring in Choke because of the work that she does.
Absolutely.
I would also want to have a conversation with Classy. Because of the work that she does. Absolutely. So like, I would love to. I would love to.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, I'll see you next time then, honey child.